I didn't get my lamps.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Ann White, and I am here with Nadya Schubert, and this is Notes from Spirit. And we are broadcasting live. I am in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and you can see that Nadya is in a tropical jungle of St. Pete. Good morning, Nadya.
Good morning, Ann.
Looks
It
like
is a beautiful day here. It is a really beautiful day. Balmy, breezy. You'll hear my chimes in the background because of the breeze. Not as humid like the last of the beautiful days.
And in Sheboygan, we're having the first of the beautiful days. I was out walking and looking at the daffodils and the little Johnny jump-ups, and just a beautiful day all around. So we are going to be starting our program, Notes from Spirit, and in this program, for those of you who are new to joining us, Nadya Schubert is a spirit scribe. So she goes into an automatic trance, or into a deep trance, and does automatic writing, where when she wakes up, she has these brilliant messages from Spirit. And more people are becoming aware of the spirit realm. And again, it doesn't make any difference to, I think, us, maybe not even the spirit, what we call it, whether it's God, angel, spirit. And I've almost finished a wonderful book I'd like to recommend to listeners. It's called The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, about a man who died and is coming back and giving his sister these kind of messages. More and more, I think we're feeling open to talk about, I think we're feeling open to talk about hearing messages from the other side, getting, seeing things, knowing things. So more and more, I think, Nadya, your work is coming into the forefront. I'm sure there was a time when you started writing 13 years ago that you didn't want to talk to your friends about what you were doing, or strangers.
In the beginning, and then I talked to everybody like a reformed prostitute, thinking I've got to change the world, and found out it's not going to happen like that. They really didn't understand it, because at that point, I really didn't understand it. Now I can speak about it in a way that's very smooth, simple, easy. I get it.
And what's the reaction to most people when you start talking about getting notes from spirit, or the fact that there is a spirit realm, that we all have spirit guides, that we're guided by spirit? What kind of reaction are you getting now?
Well, once we get past the preconceived idea that when I say I'm working with spirit, or I connect with those who have crossed over, that it's not anything to do with religion, their eyes change, their interest changes. I can see they're focused on me now, and they want to know what it is that I've gotten and how can they get it too, you know, that kind of thing. But we have to just take away that initial, when I say spiritual work, that it has nothing to do with religion.
Right, right. And one of the things I thought was interesting in The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, and Nadya, I'd recommend that to you, especially with your connection, because his sister is sort of channeling him the way you do. She's not an automatic trance, but it's very similar. It's that there's a place in the spirit realm for those who have fixed religious ideas, that they sort of get debriefed and begin to understand. So I thought that was an interesting message that he said, whether, again, it's coming from another way of channeling spirit.
And it feels similar to mine? That same type of energy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas yours, you go into a trance and come up with these ideas. Here, he is dictating to her and writing, but it's similar to yours in that he calls her, like how your spirits will ring the church bells if you're not coming in time, you know, because your spirit pull you into writing.
Right. And they used to do that because I would write daily for 3 years. Then I decided to stop that. It was too much for me. So I did it once or twice a week, and then maybe once a week, and then stopped for a while. And then you came into my life, and you were like the church bells, because you said, I think Spirit wants you to write. I think that they want you to send this out to the global market, and on, and I began to feel comfortable enough with you to do this. And I really appreciate that, and I think Spirit appreciates that, and I hope everyone who listens appreciates that.
Right. You know, are your dogs outside playing today?
The dogs are in the yard, down for the count, watching the squirrels.
It sounds like you have lions in your yard. That's why I wondered if it was your dogs.
Really? It could have been an airplane going by.
Okay, I thought you are in a tropical jungle, but it did sound like there were lions.
Right. Well, there's traffic about a block away from me, and we hear it sometimes, but it's so beautiful. I thought I'd sit outside because I really don't even have the proper lighting inside until my lights come.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You're going to be sharing with us a message from October of last year, from the fall. And it's another message that I think really resonates with almost everybody. I'm sure it was written for you, probably a time maybe when you were even planning your wedding. I was getting the wedding planning feeling when I was reading it. But it's always for you first, and then every now and then it's for me first. But,
and it's for me first at this point in my life because of different things that aren't running smoothly. So it's really interesting that I pulled this from the file, that it's from the book Notes from Spirit, from my latest book.
Okay.
Without looking at it, just picked it. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, wow, this really is amazing. I have to read it again. So now I'll read it for the audience as well.
About this was, I thought, now how did she know she had this writing? Because it seems to fit, going through a bumpy world, and we're going through a bumpy time. And I thought, boy, she really knows her writings better than she thinks she does. So this was a random pull, huh?
I didn't look at it at the time until this morning.
Yeah. And
I read it, and I thought, oh my goodness. I mean, how do they do that? It's like having a magic act almost. Yeah. Anyway.
Schubert's Magic Act. So anyway, you're telling us this is from your book, Notes from Spirit, and that book is available as an ebook and a paperback book from Amazon, as well as Nadya's earlier works. Okay, let's go ahead and see what Spirit wanted us to know today.
Is it not a bumpy world sometimes? Do all things go smoothly in your world? Do you plan your day and find that it is not following your plan and feel it's bumpy? Not easy, more difficult than you expected, and so you view it as a bumpy day. Not perfect, not according to what you want. We are trying to bring you to a place of tapping into your big picture, seeing not that each thing as going off track in your day, and try to see it as being on track. For each part of your day is bringing you to a part of yourself you may seldom use, that of your higher awareness, filtering into all things imperfect, sometimes bringing you to your knees, feeling helpless, for you are losing control of your situation. And for what, you might say? What is the purpose of feeling helpless or even feeling your day is not going the way it should? This may sound like a mishmash of repetitive sentences and thoughts. We are doing this in this way for you to feel the confusion, even in this part of the writing. Nothing is clear. Everything is beginning to sound like gibberish and with no finality, no answers. And yet, there are moments in your life where there is no point, where there just is. That place that comes up when you don't even notice it's beginning to happen, and you just bump into it and say, what was that? Not realizing that it is just the beginning of a day that is going to be different than you planned. And then little by little, you begin to notice your path is taking you to directions you did not plan on going, neither here nor there. And it may seem random with no value. Yet here you are walking along a path that is veering from one way to another with no mental street signs, just aimlessly walking, feeling you are not achieving anything again. We know we are seemingly rambling, and as you can see, words can ramble as well as people moving in a rambling direction. Here it comes. Sweet, loving, and adorable sanity. Words that make sense and sentences that have a purpose. We are feeling lighthearted today and want you to share in our lightness. There is no path that goes directly from A to B. In fact, most paths never make it past E, F, or G. And 1 in a million makes it to Z. And those people who make it to Z have lived many lives in their one material life and carry with them more knowledge than your books. For they are not just writing down the words, they are living each and every one of them, good, bad, and indifferent, in your conscious awareness, and what they truly lived is touching on their higher awareness each and every day. For their thought process was one of gentle surveillance of all that was around them, all they walked through, and all they survived, as they were absorbing what they saw and heard and spoke. They were also able to go inward and touch upon their inner self that is connected to universal consciousness and reap the rewards of feeling the genuine quality of all that came to them. With respect and honor and dignity, they embraced the tiniest to the largest, the least significant and the most important. The boundaries they broke through and the walls they helped to build to help others protect themselves. And they held themselves up to the consequences they withstood to raise themselves above the natural tendencies to turn away, ignore or deny or just dismiss what it is that made them uncomfortable. Guilt melted away from them, anger melted away from them, reason melted away from them, and feelings were the only thing they held close through their lifetime. For they knew that is where the truth lived, in their hearts and connected to their soul. They followed their path to their winner's circle, knowing they had reached the point of bliss, pure, uncolored, untainted, untouched bliss, and knew that they would always remember that moment when they reached that point.
Oops. We're having a technical difficulty. We're going to be for it shook them to their roots. But you sort of froze up right here. So let's give it a Nadya, come back to us with for it shook them to their roots. You had frozen up. You done froze.
Okay. And that stopped, knowing they were more easily going to return to their A and begin again, only to travel again on a journey filled with the knowing that would take them on their paths of many to live through their material world with grace and love for all, and would help to deliver that higher love and adulation for all that is within mankind, to all those who enter their path, for no special reason or benefits for themselves, only to bring a small part of what they would feel emanating from them, so that they may share that with others and eventually bring the material world to a place of nirvana, if you will, that place of a higher essence of who you all truly are. We feel the love that lives within you and chose to write this today to share our love with you through the words. We hope you embrace this writing and that this writing will put a smile on your face for your day, imprinting that feeling that made you smile for the many days to come.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That is a beautiful writing, I have to admit.
Yeah, and here is the book. It's in Notes from Spirit, and I was just checking because the formatting is different than how they dictated to you. So if you are interested in this writing, it's on page 83, and beautiful. So Nadya, your thoughts?
My thoughts, on a higher level of thinking, my thoughts would be to try to get away from perception and allow yourself to feel what it feels like. Whatever it is you're dealing with, go to what the feeling is and allow everything else to dissipate, if you can. I don't know if that's a training process, if it comes naturally, if you have to build to get to that point. I'm not sure. I think some people are born with that sense. You know, I think you were born with that sense. Some other people I know were born with that sense. No, I'm not sure.
I override mine. But I like, there's a saying that I see sometimes, it says, relax. Nothing is under control.
Right.
And in a way, if we say under control by us, then that makes sense. Because it's really all laid out as it's supposed to be.
Right, even though we don't always see it that way. Ultimately, though, if we could go to the big picture, I always want to go to the big picture. The big picture usually evades my viewing, but once sometimes more pieces come together, I get the feeling that as much as I might thought of it as right or as wrong, it turns out to be the perfect thing. Mm-hmm. But I have to give it time for that to happen, because I don't get everything all at once. Some people get it all. The beginning, the middle, and the end, all. I only get that in the writing.
Yeah, and oftentimes we see these as mistakes or irritants or things that pull us, that make our day bumpy. And that's, I think, one of the things this message is trying to say. And there's another expression, humans plan and God laughs. And if we bring that into spirit, sure, it's our tendency to plan and be in control, but we really aren't. And we can see the big picture because we're in this human realm of being lost in the forest. And it's our spirit guides who keep trying to get our attention and sometimes even stumble us to get our attention so that we can open up and really be open to the big picture.
Well, I've learned from experience that if I don't listen, if I'm not paying attention and I don't listen and I boldly go through whatever it is that I was not feeling totally 100% on, that they would come back to me and they would eventually pull me into something different or pull me away from where I was. But at that point in time, I had already made decisions and tried to carry them out. They weren't as worthy as they should have been if I was really, truly doing the right thing according to spirit.
Right.
So it is listening to the signs, feeling what you feel and asking yourself, why am I feeling this way? Getting an answer, and again, as we practice, why am I feeling this way again? Until we get the answer that feels comfortable.
I'm just going to demonstrate. One of the things I think, this is very human. This is what, if you were to roll this up and see, this is what humans see. Right. And I think Spirit keeps saying, no, loosen it. No, loosen it. And then Spirit says, now look at it. So I think that's part of what we do as humans is we close it in and get very myopic about where we're going. And there are really no limits except what we make ourselves.
Right.
And I think this is another one of these messages is the more we can be open to allowing Spirit to guide us to the big picture, the more we'll get there as we should, in that sense.
I agree with you. I agree. It's how open can you get? Is it a practice that you have to work with? Is it something that, is something that you even want to work with? How do you get there? That's the key. I mean, I can get there if I go in and I do my writings. I can get there. But in the real world, how do I get there? You know what I mean?
And, I hate to share this because people would think Spirit is, vicious. But for me, sometimes I'll get a nudge, then I get a push, then I get a shout, and then I get shaken, and then they break my leg. And so then I have to go sit and think. So 2 times in my life, I have ignored being bombarded by Spirit, and one time I broke my ankle, one time I broke my leg. And I'm thinking, so now I try to be very aware because I'm kind of tired of getting my bones broken. But I'm working with another woman who I visited her in the rehab center because she fell and broke her hip. And she says, in sitting here, I'm able to open up and feel all the Spirit messages coming to me. I'm thinking, gosh, we have to have a way to be clear without breaking all of our bones. But don't be afraid of Spirit. Just listen a little bit closer. I know
right.
that.
And I've talked to people that have developed illnesses and that have said to me, that's the only time it was a forced period of time that I had and could not do anything else but rest. And in that time, I began to feel things or get answers to things that I wasn't sure about. I mean, all kinds of things started happening, and she started writing them down. She started journaling her feelings. And before you knew it, coming out of the illness, which thank goodness she did, she changed direction in her life from a very lucrative life to one of very simple, to simplicity, but felt more whole, more fulfilled than she did before. And I'm not saying this is for everybody, but I'm just saying that was the time she finally got the message that she needed to satisfy Spirit as well as herself, I guess, And it has to income timing too, I'm sure. I mean, if it's a young couple, they're just married, they're going to have children. I mean, when do they have time to really think about their choices? I mean, it's always about everybody else. We're always thinking about everybody else. As you get older and you have the time and the space and the awareness and, whatever else it takes, it's a gift.
Right. And, one of the ways that we can connect better without having to be pummeled by the spirit, and even, like I say, don't worry, they don't break everyone's legs, I'm just a tough case, is taking time to really sit in silence, whether it's meditation or walking in nature or a bubble bath, because as a chaplain in a trauma center, and also as a rabbi, people will say, I prayed, I prayed, I prayed. And I will say, yes, but did you listen? Because prayer is us saying what we want. Listening is how we get the messages. And as Nadya was saying, if you're busy taking care of children and cleaning the house and doing chores and having a job, you don't have time to listen. And it's in that listening that the golden moments of direction and clarity come. So, yeah, and people say, oh, meditation, I can't do. Well, yes, you can, but take a walk, take a bubble bath. Find quiet times just to listen and maybe even write down and see what comes. So I think oftentimes in our society we pray, but we don't listen, and listening is how we receive it.
Or we think we're praying because we want something and we don't see the entire picture. We just are totally focused in that little kaleidoscope of our awareness and think that because we prayed it's going to be an automatic. And sometimes it is and we don't even recognize it, and sometimes it takes a little more prayer.
And sometimes we think we know what we want, so we pray for something we want, and it's not what we need.
No.
And very often, the Spirit will get us to what we need, and so much, it's better. Many examples in my life. The latest one was I wanted to be the head, the manager of the chaplain's department. I'd been a chaplain at a hospital for 5 years. I thought I wanted that. And another person got the job. And I realized it wasn't what I needed. It was absolutely not what I needed. It would have been so toxic to me that it opened up other doors for me to explore many wonderful things. But at that moment, I wanted that job. And the Spirit did me the biggest favor by not getting it for me. So it's those kind of things that you could look at it and say, oh, it was a failure. It was just the wrong thing, but it wasn't. And oftentimes those things really open up other doors for us. And
I agree.
I'll think of stories like that.
You could write a book, I know.
I did. I am.
I know.
Anyway.
You could add to your library another book.
Right. And really, I talk about it a lot, different kind of things like that. And there was a book called No Mistakes, and it's an anthology, and I am in that with a lot of other people who had things in their life that looked like they were terrible, either tragedies or drama, and it turned out really to be an opening door to something even more wonderful. So this, I think, is a lesson for us from Spirit. I love how they say we're feeling lighthearted today and wanted to share our life with you. Kind of fun people you've got in your life, Nadya.
Yes. They have their own way of reaching out. They could start out sometimes very seriously and heavy and reduce it down to minutia. And then they start out like this, where it's a little confusing, like, what did I write about? But that's exactly how they wanted it to feel, so they made it that way. And the words mishmash, I don't know where that came from, because I've never used that word.
And they talk about more wisdom than in your book. So obviously they're aware that, you're writing your book. So it's very personal, the way they bring in their messages.
It is very personal. And I don't really even realize that sometimes until I'm doing the show, how personal it is. I really should be more...
No, you should. Get rid of the should, because I think it's just as it should be. I think that's the message. This is just as it should be. You were open. We needed a writing. You picked one at random, and it was the perfect writing.
Amazing.
So
really amazing.
Yeah, amazing. It's always amazing. Last week we had a wonderful writing about believing in yourself. And many people loved that writing and wanted it, and I apologize. It took me a week to get it up on Nadya's Facebook because I was traveling. So if you were to go to Facebook, a note from Spirit, last week's writing on believing in yourself is posted in the notes section, and you'll be able to go through it. You'll see the density of the writing, and that's why in Nadya's books, we're opening it up for more white space, because as humans, we need that for our eyes. But when Nadya takes dictation, and you can speak of this too, Nadya, from Spirit, but it seems like their energy level, they have to reduce it down so Nadya can get the blip in a human or material level. And so it sort of comes in blips of information. How would you describe it, Nadya? Because it's a shift of energy, vibration.
In the very beginning, it would feel like they're just wrapping me up in gauze, and I had no way of telling you how I felt at all because I didn't feel or sense anything. I was just a vehicle for them to come through. And now, as the years go by, it feels more like they start lining up in a way in the corner of a room, my room that I write in, like a deck of cards. It's just one card after the other, a pile of energy coming together and waiting for me. And I think I begin with affirmations. And I think during that time of my saying my affirmations is when they're starting to mold how they want to come through, because there's no words in spirit. So they have to make words for me to understand what it is I'm getting. And I think it's right at that time that they do that. I don't think it's pre-prepared. I think the reader, one person in this group, let's say, for all intents and purposes, steps forward with this script in hand and releases the words to me. Obviously, that doesn't happen like that, but let's just say it does. But in the time that I'm saying my affirmations, because when I start my affirmations, I'm just like I am now in my consciousness. By the time I'm through, I already feel my body changing physically, slowing down, feeling numb. My mind is beginning to feel numb. I have no thoughts about anything at all. I'm in a void, like space, and I just begin to type. When they are through, slowly, and I type with my eyes closed on a computer. When they are through, I will open my eyes, and I will sit back in my chair, and I will begin to breathe more normally. I will begin to feel my fingers and my feet and all the other things that go on in the body. And just gently look at the piece of paper in front of me on the computer screen and print it out and put it away. And eventually, sometimes I'll go back to look at it, or when I'm with you, I'll look at it, or when I write the books, I'll look at it so that we can format it for Amazon. So at this point in time, it's really very easy. I say my affirmations, I go in, I don't pay attention to anything, it just comes through. I think that we've established the wavelength I'm on, the vibrational wave that I'm on, together with their wave, so it's much quicker now. It's an imprint already of established vibration. And I think that comes from working together for a period of time. I don't think this happens initially as smoothly as it is now.
Right, and if we think of it from a scientific point of view, all matter is vibration. So they call us the material. We're in a material world because our energy is more condensed. It's thicker. So in light, it's very open and vibrates at a different level. So they have to almost change that vibration of the message to get it to you. And that's why sometimes the messages, when you first look at them, like you'll see on the Facebook page, they're dense because they're a thought, dot, 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 a thought, dot, dot, dot. So it sort of comes into you, and I call them thought pellets.
Right.
And when we edit it for the book, we open it up for the human eye, which is different than the spirit eye.
Right, and I'm wondering if there's less dots in the more recent writings than others. I have to go into my first book and look at it and see.
Yeah, because you brought more pieces of information. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I'm sure other people do this. I wish I could find them so that I could discuss these things with them too. But I'm around people that are doing the work, and they're doing it in their own way, and it still comes through beautifully. So I'm very happy that a lot of us are in that arena and donating what we do to the world, whoever is interested in listening.
Stepping forward. I think that's why I was so attracted too to the afterlife of Billy Fingers. A couple reasons, because as a trauma chaplain, I used to deal with death a lot. But you're one of the few people that I know very well who does this kind of work. So you're my paradigm. And so she was saying she was taking notes longhand, and then her brother said, "Go to the computer. I have a lot to tell you today." And I know how your spirit guides. It was time to go to the computer. So there are those kind of similarities that I thought were real interesting in knowing your work. I was comparing what she was doing to what you have done and what you've shared. So.
Right. And who is this person again? Billy Fingers?
The name of the book is The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. I'm sorry, I can't remember the author's name.
Okay.
Fingers, like, let your fingers do the work.
Okay.
And I think it's Dr. Ann, somebody starts with a K, but we'll post it. And I just, like I say, it resonated with me because of knowing your work and seeing how real it was compared to what you do, how your spirit guides have said, okay, now you need to go to the typewriter because we're really doing a lot of work.
In a short period of time, because they were holding me too long. 45 minutes is too long for me to stay in. So now it's 15 to 20 minutes and I'm done. It's very nice. So anyway, we're running short on I can't plug in my computer outside because the cord wasn't long enough.
Okay, and
I'm sorry.
Thank everybody for joining us today in Notes from Spirit. Know that last week's note and Believing in Yourself is on the Facebook page, A Note from Spirit, and while you're there, go ahead and friend it. We need to get Nadya more and more friends because she is a Luddite and doesn't go on the computer very often, so let's just draw her into that energy. We'll do that, and we'll see you next week with another note. And if you would like more of these kind of pieces of information, go to Amazon and you can find her 3 books there, the latest being Notes from Spirit, both ebook and tree book. So we'll see you next week on the Creating Calm Network. And if you'd like to see her page and some of the other shows we've done, go to Nadya, Nadya, creatingcalmnetwork.com. It's all there. It's a treasure trove. Thanks a lot, and thank you, Nadya.
Thank you, Ann.